The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. while I was under the hood of my '68 Mustang, grease up to my elbows, trying to forget that my wife hadn't come home for dinner again. I think maybe we need to break up. I stared at the screen, oil dripping from my fingers onto the cracked concrete floor of my auto shop. 22 years of marriage, and Lila decides to end it with a text message like some teenager dumping her prom date. My thumbs moved before my brain could stop them. I agree, your stuff will be on the porch in an hour. The reply came instantly. Wait, I was joking. I wasn't. And just like that, I became the villain in my own life story. Funny how quickly things can change when you stop playing the fool. The thing about small New England towns is that everyone knows your business before you do. Mill Creek used to be something back when the paper mill was running, but now it's just another dying town full of people with too much time and too little to lose. The kind of place where your neighbor knows what you had for breakfast and your mechanic doubles as your therapist. I'm Jack Morrison, 43 years old, owner of Morrison's Auto Repair, and apparently soon-to-be ex-husband to Lila Morrison, Chief Operating Officer of TechFlow Solutions. She likes to remind people about that title. A lot. Jack, you can't be serious. Lila's voice cut through the garage as she burst through the side door, still in her yoga pants and that designer hoodie that cost more than I make in a week. Dead serious, I said, not looking up from the engine. You want to play games, Lila? I don't. It was just a text. I was frustrated. About what? Your business coach Mark not returning your calls fast enough? The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, I knew I'd hit the bullseye. What's that supposed to mean? Her voice had that edge it gets when she's been caught. I finally looked up, wiping my hands on an old rag. It means I'm not as stupid as you think I am. Lila's face went through about 6 different expressions before settling on indignant. You're being paranoid and ridiculous. Am I? When's the last time you came home for dinner? When's the last time you didn't have your phone glued to your hand? When's the last time you looked at me like I was more than just the guy who pays half the mortgage? Jack, Save it. I tossed the rag onto my workbench. You want to break up? Fine, but don't insult my intelligence by pretending this is about me being paranoid. She stood there for a moment, and I could see her calculating. Lila always was good at math. We need to talk about this rationally, she said finally. No, we don't. You made your choice. I'm making mine. That's when she played her trump card. What about Maggie and Jake? Our kids. Maggie, 18 and away at college, smart as a whip and twice as sharp-tongued as her mother. Jake, 16, sullen and loyal to a fault. The only 2 people in this world I'd die for. What about them? You think they haven't noticed their mother coming home at midnight smelling like someone else's cologne? Lila's face went pale. You don't know what you're talking about. Mark Hendricks, 6'2", drives a white Tesla, calls himself a motivational influencer on Instagram. Has about as much substance as a fortune cookie, but he's got abs and tells you you're special. Am I getting warm? The look on her face was worth 22 years of marriage right there. How did you... Your phone, genius. You left it on the kitchen counter last week. Face up. His name, his picture, his very creative suggestions about what you 2 could do during your next business meeting. Lila sat down hard on my old office chair, the one with the spring that squeaks. Jack, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The only question is how long it's been going on. She was quiet for a long moment. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Darrow's dog barking at something in the alley, probably a raccoon. Mrs. Darrow sees everything from her kitchen window, knows everything too if you ask her. 6 months, Lila said finally. 6 months. 6 months of coming home to a wife who was somewhere else entirely. 6 months of dinners alone, of sleeping next to a stranger, of feeling like I was going crazy. Well, I said, at least you're honest about something. Jack, please, we can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. I laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. You want to work through this? Fine. Call Mark. Tell him it's over. Block his number. Quit taking his business coaching sessions. Come home for dinner. Act like you remember you have a family. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You choose him or you choose us, but you don't get both. She stood up, and I could see her putting on her corporate face, the one she uses in board meetings. You're being unreasonable. People make mistakes, Jack. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is missing an anniversary. 6 months of screwing around with your business coach isn't a mistake, Lila. It's a choice. I need time to think. No, you don't. You need time to figure out how to keep both of us on the hook. But I'm done being your backup plan. She headed for the door, then turned back. What if I choose him? The question hung in the air like exhaust fumes. Then you better hope he's worth it, I said. Because I promise you, Lila, you'll never find another man stupid enough to put up with your bullshit for 22 years. After she left, I sat in my garage until 3 a.m, drinking beer and listening to the sounds of a town going to sleep. Somewhere out there, my wife was probably texting her boyfriend, telling him what a monster her husband was. That's when I realized something. If they wanted a villain, I'd give them one hell of a show. The next morning, I woke up on the couch in my office, neck stiff and head pounding. The first thing I saw was a text from Jake. Mom didn't come home last night. You guys okay? I typed back, we're working through some things. Don't worry about it. Dad, I'm 16, not 6. I know what's going on. Smart kid, too smart for his own good sometimes. I dragged myself to the coffee pot and tried to pretend my life wasn't falling apart. Outside, Mill Creek was waking up to another gray October morning. The leaves were turning, which meant winter wasn't far behind. Winter in a small town with a cheating wife and a business that barely breaks even. What a wonderful thought. My phone buzzed. Vic Castellano, my best friend since high school and owner of the Rusty Anchor, the kind of dive bar where everyone knows your name and your problems. Heard about last night, you okay? Peachy, how'd you hear? Mrs. Darrow was in for her morning coffee. Says she saw Lila's car leave around midnight and come back at 6 a.m. Of course she did. Mrs. Darrow could run the CIA from her kitchen window. Want to grab lunch? Got something to tell you? An hour later, I was sitting across from Vic in a booth at Murphy's Diner, picking at a cheeseburger I didn't want, while he told me what half the town already knew. Mark Hendricks isn't just coaching Lila, Vic said, stirring sugar into his coffee. Word is he's got 3 other clients getting the same special treatment. Including who? Sarah Chen from the bank, Rebecca Martinez who runs that yoga studio, and get this, Diane Carter. Diane Carter? Lila's boss? The very same. Apparently Mark's got a thing for successful women with money. I sat back in the booth processing this. So he's running some kind of operation. Looks like it, and your wife's just another Mark. The funny thing was, instead of making me feel better, it made me feel worse. At least if she'd fallen in love with someone, I could understand it. But being played by a con artist? That was just insulting. What are you going to do? Vic asked. I don't know yet, but I'm done being the understanding husband. Jack, be careful. Revenge has a way of biting you in the ass. Maybe, but right now, I'm more worried about my ass getting kicked while I'm being nice about it. That afternoon, I was working on Mrs. Patterson's Honda when Jake showed up at the shop. He does that sometimes when he needs to talk, usually about school or girls or whatever 16-year-old boys worry about. Dad, can I ask you something? Shoot. Are you and Mom getting divorced? I put down my wrench and looked at my son. He had Lila's dark hair and my stubborn jaw, and right now he looked about 10 years old. I don't know, buddy, maybe because of that Mark guy? I nearly dropped the wrench. What do you know about Mark? I'm not stupid, Dad. He's been texting Mom constantly, and she gets all weird and happy when he does. Plus, Maggie saw them together at that coffee place downtown when she was home last month. She did? Yeah. She wanted to tell you, but I said maybe it wasn't what it looked like. What did it look like? Jake was quiet for a minute, like Mom was cheating on you. Hearing it from your 16-year-old son hits different than figuring it out yourself. I'm sorry, Jake. For what? You didn't do anything wrong. For letting it get this far. For not protecting you and Maggie from this mess. Dad, you can't protect us from everything. And we're not little kids anymore. Smart kid. Definitely too smart for his own good. What do you want me to do? I asked. I want you to stop letting her treat you like crap. That evening, Lila came home around 8, carrying takeout from that expensive Thai place she likes. She was trying to act normal, but normal for us had been broken for months. I brought dinner, she said, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. Thanks. We ate in silence for a while, the only sound our forks against the plates and the hum of the refrigerator. Jack, I've been thinking about what you said last night. And? I think we should try counseling. Work through our problems like adults. Have you talked to Mark today? She hesitated just long enough to give me my answer. This isn't about Mark. Everything's about Mark, Lila. That's the problem. You're being unfair. Am I? Let me see your phone. What? Your phone. If this isn't about Mark, show me your texts. She clutched her phone like it was the last life preserver on the Titanic. I'm not going to let you violate my privacy. Your privacy? We're married, Lila. We don't have privacy from each other, or at least, we're not supposed to. That's not how it works. No, that's exactly how it works. You want to save this marriage? Show me your phone. Delete his number, block him on everything. Choose us. You can't just what? Stop screwing around with your boyfriend? It's not that simple. It is that simple. I was on my feet now, 22 years of frustration boiling over. You made it complicated by lying and cheating and treating me like I'm too stupid to notice. I never said you were stupid. You didn't have to say it. You showed me every day for 6 months. We stood there staring at each other across the kitchen table, and I realized this was it. The moment when everything changes and you can't go back. I need more time, she said finally. Number, you need to make a choice, right now, him or me. She looked down at her phone, then back at me. I can't choose right now. Then you already have. I walked out of the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Where are you going? She called after me. To Vic's. When you figure out what you want, let me know. I spent the next 3 hours at the Rusty Anchor, drinking beer and listening to Vic tell stories about his ex-wife and the creative ways she tried to ruin his life during their divorce. The thing about revenge, he said, polishing a glass behind the bar, is that it's like a drug. Feels great going down, but the hangover's a bitch. Maybe, but right now I'm more interested in feeling great. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Mark Hendricks has been having his fun at my expense. Maybe it's time I returned the favor. Jack. What? I'm not going to hurt anybody. But if he wants to play games with people's lives, maybe he should know what it feels like to lose. When I got home around midnight, Lila's car wasn't in the driveway. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I sat on my front porch for a while, looking at the house I'd been paying for while my wife was out with her boyfriend, and that's when I made my decision. If Lila wanted to play games, I'd show her how it's done. The next morning, I started my research. Turns out, when you're motivated and you know where to look, you can find out a lot about a person. Mark Hendricks, motivational influencer and life coach, wasn't exactly hiding his tracks. His Instagram was full of shirtless gym selfies, motivational quotes stolen from better men, and pictures of him with various clients at expensive restaurants, including several recent ones with my wife. But the interesting stuff was in the comments. Angry comments from women talking about false promises and wasted money. Comments from men calling him a fraud, and one particularly interesting comment from someone named Trina Walsh. Mark Hendricks is a lying, cheating scumbag who will take your money and your dignity. Ask me how I know. I messaged Trina. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from her at a coffee shop 3 towns over. Trina Walsh was about 30, pretty in a hard-lived kind of way, with the look of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. You're the husband, she said. It wasn't a question. I'm the husband. You're the ex-girlfriend? One of many. Mark collects women like baseball cards, trades them in when he gets bored or finds a better deal. How long were you together? 8 months. Long enough to loan him $12,000 for his business expansion and catch him with 2 other women. At the same time? Different days. He's got a system. Monday, Wednesday, Friday girl, Tuesday, Thursday girl, weekend girl, very organized. I felt sick. Which day is my wife? Tuesday and Thursday last I heard, though that might have changed. He's flexible. What kind of business expansion? Trina laughed, but it wasn't happy. There is no business. Mark's broke, lives in a studio apartment, drives a leased Tesla he can barely afford, and survives by convincing successful women to pay for his coaching and everything else. Everything else? Dinners, hotels, weekend trips, gym memberships, clothes. He's very good at making women feel like they're investing in themselves when they're really just paying for his lifestyle. And the coaching? Complete bullshit. He Googles motivational quotes and regurgitates them back. The only thing he's good at coaching is women out of their money and into bed. I sat back in my chair processing this. My wife wasn't just cheating on me, she was being scammed. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Mark Hendricks destroyed my life, and I want to see him get what's coming to him. And because your wife isn't his only current victim. Diane Carter? Among others. He's got a whole stable. Tells each one she's special, that he's never felt this way before, that they have a future together. How do you know all this? Because I've been watching, following him, documenting everything. I was going to expose him myself, but then you reached out, and I figured maybe we could help each other. She slid a manila folder across the table. Photos, receipts, copies of texts he sent me that he's probably sending to your wife word for word. Everything you need to prove what he really is. I opened the folder. The first photo was Mark and Lila coming out of the Marriott downtown. The second was Mark and Diane Carter at the same hotel 2 days later. The third was Mark and a woman I didn't recognize. Jesus. There's more. Bank records showing he's been depositing checks from at least 6 different women. Screenshots of his dating profiles where he lists his occupation as entrepreneur and his relationship status as single. Why haven't you gone to the police? With what? Being a lying scumbag isn't illegal. Taking money from women who give it willingly isn't fraud if he's actually providing some kind of service, even if that service is bullshit. So what do you want from me? I want to destroy him, publicly, completely. Make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what Mark Hendricks is. And in return, I help you get your wife back, or help you get rid of her, whatever you prefer. I looked at the photos again. Lila looked happy in them. Happier than she'd looked with me in years. What did you have in mind? Mark's got a big event coming up next week. Some motivational seminar at the community center. Unlock your potential, or some garbage like that. Tickets are $50 each, and he's expecting about 200 people. And that's where we expose him, in front of everyone. Show them exactly what their motivational guru does in his spare time. I closed the folder. I need to think about this. Don't think too long. Your wife just gave him another check yesterday. $5,000 for advanced coaching sessions. $5,000. Money from our joint account that she'd spent on her boyfriend. How do you know that? Because I know which bank she uses, and I know someone who works there. Small town, remember? That evening, I waited for Lila to come home. She walked in around 9, looking guilty and defiant at the same time. We need to talk, I said. I know, Jack, I've made a decision. Have you? I want to try to save our marriage, but I need you to understand that I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. Because of me. Because of us. We've grown apart. We want different things. What do you want, Lila? I want to feel alive again. I want to feel like I matter. Like I'm more than just someone's wife and someone's mother. And Mark makes you feel that way. She was quiet for a moment. Yes, for $5,000. Her face went white. What? The check you wrote him yesterday, from our joint account, for advanced coaching sessions. How did you? I know a lot of things, Lila. I know about Diane Carter. I know about the other women. I know about the hotel receipts and the fake business and the leased Tesla. She sat down hard on the couch. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself and trying to figure out if my wife is a cheater or just an idiot. Don't call me an idiot. Then don't act like one. The man is running a con, Lila. You're not his girlfriend. You're his Mark. That's not true. It is true. And deep down, you know it. When's the last time he paid for dinner? When's the last time he bought you something? When's the last time he did anything for you that didn't cost you money? She was crying now, but I was past caring about her tears. He loves me, she said. He loves your checkbook, just like he loves Diane Carter's checkbook and Sarah Chen's checkbook and God knows how many others. You're lying. Am I? Call him right now. Tell him you can't afford to pay for his coaching anymore. See how long it takes him to find an excuse to end things. She looked at her phone, then back at me. I won't do that. Because you know I'm right. Because I won't let you manipulate me. I'm not manipulating you, Lila. I'm trying to save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. The biggest mistake of my life was marrying someone who doesn't believe in me. I believed in you for 22 years. I believed in you when you wanted to go back to school. I believed in you when you wanted to start your career. I believed in you when you said our marriage mattered. And now I believe you're going to lose everything for a man who doesn't give a damn about you. She stood up and headed for the stairs. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Lila. She turned back. Next week, Mark's having a big seminar at the community center. You should go. See your boyfriend in action. Why are you telling me this? Because after that, you won't be able to pretend anymore. After she went upstairs, I sat in my living room and made my decision. If Mark Hendricks wanted to play games with people's lives, it was time he learned that some games have consequences. I picked up my phone and texted Trina. I'm in. The week leading up to Mark's seminar was the longest of my life. Lila barely spoke to me. Jake kept asking if we were okay, and I spent every spare moment planning what Trina and I had started calling the reckoning. The plan was simple. During Mark's presentation, we'd project photos and evidence of his scams onto the screen behind him. Show everyone exactly what their motivational guru was really motivating himself to do. But simple plans have a way of getting complicated. We have a problem, Trina said when she called me Thursday morning. Mark moved the seminar. What do you mean moved it? Different location. Some conference room at the Marriott instead of the community center. Smaller crowd, more controlled environment. How many people? Maybe 50. Mostly his current marks and some new prospects. Including Lila? Including Lila and Diane Carter and Sarah Chen, all the women he's currently working. I thought about this. Maybe that's better, more personal. Maybe. But hotel security is tighter than the community center. Harder to get our equipment in. What equipment? I may have gotten a little carried away. I was thinking projector, speakers, maybe some flyers to hand out afterward. Trina, we're not storming Normandy. We're exposing a con man. I know. I just want to make sure everyone gets the message. That afternoon, I was working on a transmission rebuild when Vic stopped by the shop. Heard you're planning something stupid, he said, settling into my office chair. Who told you that? Small town, Jack. Word gets around. Mrs. Darrow says you've been meeting with some woman from out of town. Says you look like you're planning trouble. Mrs. Darrow needs to mind her own business. Mrs. Darrow's been minding everyone's business for 70 years. She's not going to stop now. Vic leaned forward. What are you doing, Jack? I told him about Mark, about the other women, about the money Lila had been giving him. Jesus, Vic said when I finished. What a piece of work. So you understand why I have to do something. I understand why you want to do something. But think about this, Jack. You expose this guy. You humiliate your wife in front of half the town. You think she's going to thank you for that? I think she's going to realize what an idiot she's been. Or she's going to hate you forever for embarrassing her. She already hates me, Vic. At least this way, she'll know why. Friday night, Lila came home late again, but this time she seemed different. Excited. Happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. Good day? I asked. Very good. Mark's seminar is tomorrow and he asked me to introduce him. He did? He says I'm an inspiration. A successful woman who's taken control of her life and isn't afraid to go after what she wants. What do you want, Lila? I want to be happy. I want to feel alive. I want to stop feeling like I'm just going through the motions. And you think Mark is going to give you that? I think Mark sees me for who I really am. A bank account with legs? She turned on me, eyes flashing. Why can't you just be happy for me? Why does everything have to be negative with you? Because I've been married to you for 22 years and I know when you're being played. I'm not being played. God, Jack, you're so cynical, so bitter. No wonder I don't want to be around you anymore. No wonder Mark does. You're paying his rent. I'm investing in my future. You're investing in his future. There's a difference. She headed for the stairs, then turned back. You know what? Come tomorrow. Come to the seminar. See what Mark is really about. See what I see in him. Maybe I will. Good. Maybe you'll learn something. After she went upstairs, I called Trina. Change of plans, I said. I'm going to the seminar as a regular attendee. Lila invited me. That's perfect. You can create a distraction while I set up the equipment. What equipment? I thought we were keeping this simple. We are. Just a laptop and a portable projector. I'll be in the back. You'll be in the front with your wife. And then? And then we show everyone who Mark Hendricks really is. Saturday morning, I put on my best shirt and drove to the Marriott. The conference room was set up with about 60 chairs facing a small stage with a podium and a projection screen. There was a registration table by the door where a young woman was collecting $50 bills and handing out name tags. Name? She asked when I approached. Jack Morrison. She looked through her list. I don't see you here. My wife registered me, Lila Morrison. Oh yes, here you are. You're at table 3 right up front. Of course I was. Front row seat for my own humiliation. I found my table and sat down next to an older woman who introduced herself as Margaret from the yoga studio. Are you one of Mark's clients? She asked. Not exactly. My wife is. Oh, how wonderful. Mark is amazing. He's helped me find my inner strength. Of course, it's expensive, but you can't put a price on personal growth. How expensive? Well, I've invested about $8,000 so far, but Mark says I'm making real progress. $8,000. I wondered how many women in this room had invested their savings in Mark's bullshit. At exactly 10 o'clock, Lila walked onto the stage. She looked beautiful, confident, alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. And it broke my heart. Good morning, everyone, she said into the microphone. I'm Lila Morrison, and I'm here to introduce someone who's changed my life. The crowd applauded politely. 6 months ago, I was stuck. I had a successful career, a family, all the things I thought I wanted. But I wasn't happy. I felt like I was sleepwalking through my own life. I saw Trina slip into the back of the room with a small bag. She caught my eye and nodded. Then I met Mark Hendricks, Lila continued, and he showed me that I didn't have to settle, that I could have more, that I deserved more. More applause. I felt sick. Mark taught me that the only person standing between me and my dreams was me. He taught me to take risks, to invest in myself, to stop making excuses. She was looking right at me when she said that last part. So please join me in welcoming someone who's not just a life coach, but a life changer, Mark Hendricks. The crowd erupted as Mark walked onto the stage. He was everything I'd expected. Tall, handsome, perfectly groomed, with a smile that probably cost more than my car. He hugged Lila a little too long, a little too close, and took the microphone. Thank you, Lila. Everyone, let's give Lila another round of applause. She's a perfect example of what happens when you stop accepting less than you deserve. I looked back at Trina. She was setting up her laptop at a table in the back corner. How many of you feel stuck? Mark asked the crowd. How many of you feel like you're capable of more but don't know how to get there? Hands went up all around the room. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to unlock your potential, to show you that the only limits in your life are the ones you accept. He clicked a remote and his first slide appeared on the screen behind him. Success is a choice in bold letters. But success isn't free, he continued. It requires investment. Investment in yourself, in your growth, in your future. I watched the faces around me. These people were eating it up, especially the women. They were looking at Mark like he was some kind of prophet. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Mark, I can't afford to invest in myself right now. But let me ask you this. Can you afford not to? More nods, more murmurs of agreement. I've worked with hundreds of people, and the ones who succeed are the ones who commit fully, who invest not just their time and energy, but their resources. I looked back at Trina again. She gave me a thumbs up. Which brings me to my advanced coaching program, Mark said. This is where the real transformation happens, where we dig deep and rebuild your life from the ground up. Another slide. Advanced coaching investment, $5,000. Now I know that might seem like a lot, but think about it this way. What's it worth to completely transform your life? What's it worth to finally become the person you were meant to be? That's when Trina made her move. The screen behind Mark suddenly went black, then filled with a photo of him coming out of the Marriott with Diane Carter, then another photo with Sarah Chen, then one with my wife. The room went dead silent. Mark spun around, saw the photos, and his face went white. "What the hell?" The photos kept cycling. Mark with different women at different hotels. Screenshots of text messages promising each one that she was special, that he'd never felt this way before, that they had a future together. Bank records showing deposits from multiple women on the same days. "Ladies and gentlemen," Trina's voice came over the sound system, "meet the real Mark Hendricks, professional con artist, serial cheater, and motivational fraud." The room erupted. Women were shouting, men were laughing, and Mark was frantically trying to turn off the projector. "This is bullshit," he yelled into the microphone. "Someone's trying to sabotage me." But the evidence was overwhelming. Photo after photo, document after document, all showing exactly what Mark really was. I looked at Lila. She was standing frozen on the stage, staring at the screen as photo after photo of her boyfriend with other women cycled past. "Lila," Mark said, reaching for her. "I can explain." She jerked away from him like he was on fire. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice barely audible over the chaos in the room. That's when Mark made his biggest mistake. Instead of trying to salvage the situation, instead of apologizing or explaining, he ran. He bolted off the stage and headed for the exit, leaving Lila standing there alone while the evidence of his betrayal played on the screen behind her. The room was in complete chaos now. Women were crying, men were shouting, and hotel security was trying to restore order. I stood up and walked to the stage. "Lila," I said, reaching up to help her down. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You did this." "Yes." "You humiliated me in front of all these people." "Number he did. I just made sure you found out before you gave him any more of our money." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her processing everything. The lies, the other women, the money, the realization that everything Mark had told her was bullshit. "Take me home," she said finally. "Okay." As we walked out of the hotel, I saw Trina packing up her equipment. She caught my eye and smiled. "Nice work," she mouthed. Outside, Lila was quiet until we got to the car. "How long have you known?" she asked. "About a week, maybe less. And you let me make a fool of myself. You made a fool of yourself 6 months ago when you started sleeping with him. I just made sure other people found out." She was quiet for the rest of the drive home. That evening, we sat in our living room and had the first honest conversation we'd had in months. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry for cheating. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for being so stupid." "Why, Lila? Why him? Why now?" "Because I felt invisible. Because I felt like you didn't see me anymore. Because he made me feel special." "You are special. You're brilliant and successful and beautiful. You didn't need some con artist to tell you that." "But you never told me that." "I married you. I stayed married to you for 22 years. I thought that told you everything you needed to know. It's not enough to just stay married, Jack. You have to keep choosing each other every day." She was right, and we both knew it. "So what now?" I asked. "Now we figure out if there's anything left to save." "Is there?" "I don't know, but I'd like to try." It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even a real ending. It was just a beginning, and we both knew we had a long way to go. But for the first time in months, I felt like my wife was actually in the room with me. And that was something. 3 days after the seminar disaster, I was working late at the shop when Mark Hendricks walked through my door. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the kind of desperate that comes from watching your whole world collapse in real time. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't look up from the engine I was working on. "No, we don't. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure people knew about it. Those photos were taken without my consent. That's invasion of privacy. Those photos were taken in public places. That's called evidence." He moved closer, and I could smell the desperation on him like cheap cologne. "You have no idea what you've done," he said. "Sure I do. I saved a bunch of women from getting scammed by a worthless piece of shit. I loved her. That made me laugh. You loved her checkbook. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know about the other women. I know about the money. I know about the fake business and the leased Tesla and the studio apartment you can't afford. His face went red. You had no right. I had every right. She's my wife. She doesn't want to be your wife anymore. Maybe not. But she sure as hell doesn't want to be your Mark anymore. That's when he took a swing at me. I saw it coming from a mile away. The guy telegraphed his punches like a Western Union operator. I ducked, and his fist connected with the hood of the car I was working on. He screamed and grabbed his hand. You broke my hand. No, you broke your hand, on my car, while you were trying to assault me. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. I've got security cameras that show you taking the first swing, plus about 50 witnesses who saw you running out of that hotel like your ass was on fire. He stood there cradling his hand, and I could see him calculating his options. They weren't good. What do you want? He asked finally. I want you gone, out of town, away from my wife and away from anyone else you might try to scam. I can't just leave. I have commitments. What commitments? Your fake business? Your fake coaching? Your fake life? I have clients who depend on me. You have victims who are finally figuring out what you really are. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a manila folder. You know what this is? No. This is everything Trina Walsh collected on you. Bank records, hotel receipts, copies of text messages, photos, testimonials from women you've scammed. Everything. His face went white. Now I could give this to the police. Let them decide if what you've been doing constitutes fraud. Or I could give it to the local newspaper. Let them run a nice feature story about our local motivational guru. What do you want? I want you gone by Friday. I want you to stop contacting my wife. I want you to pay back every penny you took from these women. I don't have that kind of money. Then you better figure out how to get it. And if I don't? I smiled. And it wasn't a nice smile. Then I make sure everyone in this state knows exactly what Mark Hendricks is. I put your picture and your story on every social media platform I can find. I make sure that when people Google your name, the first thing they see is con artist and fraud. You can't do that. Watch me. He stood there for a long moment, holding his injured hand and trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I wasn't. Fine, he said finally, but I want something in return. You're not in a position to negotiate. I want Lila to tell me herself that it's over. I want to hear it from her. Why? Because I need to know if this is what she really wants or if you're forcing her. I thought about it. Fine, but it happens here in my shop with me present. Deal. After he left, I called Lila. Mark wants to see you, I said. I don't want to see him. I know, but he wants to hear from you that it's over. And I want him to hear it too. Jack, I can't face him. Not after what happened at the seminar. You can face him. You're stronger than you think. What if he tries to convince me to give him another chance? Will you? Number God, no. I can't believe I was so stupid. Then tell him that. Look him in the eye and tell him exactly what you think of him. Will you be there? I'll be there. The next evening, Mark showed up at my shop right on time. His hand was in a cast, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Lila arrived 5 minutes later. She'd dressed carefully, professional, put together, the kind of outfit she wore to board meetings when she needed to project authority. Hello, Mark, she said. Lila, you look beautiful. Don't what? Don't try to charm me. Don't try to manipulate me. Don't pretend like what we had was real. It was real for me. No, it wasn't. I've seen the photos, Mark. I've seen the bank records. I know about Diane and Sarah and all the others. They didn't mean anything. Neither did I. I was just another mark in your con game. That's not true. Then where's the $5,000 I gave you last week? Where's the money I've been giving you for 6 months? He didn't answer. You used me, Lila continued. You told me I was special while you were telling the same thing to half a dozen other women. You took my money, you took my dignity, and you almost cost me my marriage. Your marriage was already over. My marriage had problems. But at least my husband never lied to me about who he was. I felt something shift inside my chest when she said that. Lila, please, we can work this out. We can go somewhere else, start over. With what money? You're broke, Mark. You've always been broke. Everything about you is fake. I love you. You love what I could do for you. There's a difference. She turned to leave, then stopped. You know what the worst part is? I actually thought I was smart. I thought I was making a choice, taking control of my life. But I was just another victim in your con game. Lila, don't contact me again. Don't call, don't text, don't show up at my office. If you do, I'll file a restraining order. After she left, Mark stood there for a moment, looking lost. Satisfied? He asked. Getting there. I really did care about her. No, you didn't. You cared about what she could give you. If you'd cared about her, you wouldn't have been screwing half the town behind her back. You don't understand what it's like. What's like? Being broke, being desperate, trying to make something of yourself when you've got nothing. I understand plenty about being broke. The difference is, I never tried to solve my problems by destroying other people's lives. He headed for the door, then turned back. This isn't over. Yeah, it is, and if you're smart, you'll make sure it stays that way. After he left, I sat in my shop for a while, thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, my life had been predictable, comfortable, boring. Now it was a mess, but at least it was an honest mess. My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Thank you for being there tonight. I typed back, thank you for showing up. Can we talk when you get home? Yeah, we can talk. When I got home an hour later, Lila was sitting at the kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee and a manila folder. What's that? I asked. Divorce papers. I had my lawyer draw them up last week. My heart sank. And I'm not going to file them. Why not? Because I realized something tonight. When I was telling Mark off, I kept thinking about you. About how you never lied to me, never pretended to be something you weren't, never tried to con me or use me. I also never made you feel special. That's not your job, Jack. That's my job. I'm supposed to feel special because of who I am, not because of what some man tells me. So what does this mean? It means I want to try, really try. Not just go to counseling and pretend everything's fine, but actually work on fixing what's broken. What if it's too broken to fix? Then at least we'll know we tried. I sat down across from her. I'm sorry too, you know. I'm sorry I let us drift apart. I'm sorry I stopped seeing you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to look somewhere else for attention. We both screwed up. Yeah, we did. We sat there for a while, drinking coffee and not saying anything. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't awful either. Jack? Yeah? What you did at the seminar, that was brutal. I know. But it was also the first time in months that I felt like you were fighting for me instead of just fighting with me. I was fighting for you. I just wish I'd started sooner. Me too. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed for the first time in a week. Lila was already up, getting ready for work. Any word from Mark? She asked. He's leaving town today. Trina's been keeping an eye on him. Good. Lila? Yeah? This is going to be hard. Getting back to normal, I mean. There's going to be a lot of people talking, a lot of awkward conversations. I know, but I'd rather deal with that than live with the lie. That afternoon, Vic stopped by the shop. Heard Mark Hendricks left town, he said. Good news travels fast. Bad news travels faster. Word is, 3 more women came forward after the seminar. Apparently, he's been running this scam for years. What happens to them? Same thing that happens to everyone who gets conned. They learn an expensive lesson and try to move on. And us? You and Lila? That's up to you two. But for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Even though I humiliated my wife in front of half the town, especially because of that, sometimes people need to hit bottom before they can start climbing back up. That evening, Jake came by the shop. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you and Mom going to be okay? I don't know, buddy. We're going to try. Good. Because I was getting tired of pretending I didn't know what was going on. You shouldn't have had to deal with any of this. Yeah, well, sometimes life sucks, but at least now it's honest. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good, but smart. 3 weeks later, Lila and I were sitting in a marriage counselor's office, trying to figure out how to rebuild 22 years of marriage. The trust is going to take time, the counselor said. Both of you have work to do. How much time? Lila asked. That depends on how committed you both are to the process. What if we can't get it back? I asked. Then at least you'll know you tried everything. After the session, we went to dinner at Murphy's Diner. It was the first time we'd been out together in months. This is weird, Lila said. Good weird or bad weird? I don't know yet. Well, let me know when you figure it out. She smiled, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married 22 years ago. Jack? Yeah? I'm glad you fought for us, even if it was messy and brutal and humiliating. Me too. And I'm sorry it took almost losing everything for me to remember what I had. We both forgot, but maybe we can remember together. 6 months later, I got a call from Trina. Thought you'd want to know, she said. Mark Hendricks was arrested in Florida. Same scam, different town. Good. How are things with you and Lila? Better, not perfect, but better. That's all any of us can ask for. That night, I told Lila about Mark's arrest. I feel sorry for those women in Florida, she said. But not sorry enough to wish we hadn't exposed him? What we did probably saved a lot of people, a lot of heartache. Even though it cost us 6 months of hell? Even though we were sitting on our front porch watching the sun set over Mill Creek. It wasn't much to look at. A dying town full of people with ordinary problems, but it was home. Jack? Yeah? Do you think we're going to make it? I think we're going to try, and that's more than we had 6 months ago. Is it enough? It's a start. She took my hand, and for the first time in a year, it felt like she meant it. Maybe that's all any marriage is. Two people deciding, over and over again, that whatever they have is worth fighting for. Even when the fight gets ugly. Even when the fight gets public. Even when the fight almost destroys everything you thought you knew about each other. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's saving what they tried to take from you.